All right, everybody, welcome back to Lounging with Leash. You know, your girl took a little hiatus, and mostly because I didn't know how long I was going to continue it. Because if you can recall, I started this project when I was wanting to have a reason to get out of bed in the morning because quarantine life, you know what I mean? We're struggling. And after the last episode, I actually started walking instead of recording because I would do it in the mornings. And so I'm like, hey, healthy hobby, let's just do that. There's only so many hours in the day. But here we are again, and you know why? Because it's Bachelorette season, baby. And I have thoughts, lots of them. And so I'm going to continue for as long as I damn well please to do these conversations with y'all on the podcast and on YouTube because it's an important thing in my life, you know, the Bachelorette. And I know that there's a lot of podcasts out there about this, and I actually like a lot of them. A lot of people are doing this. I listen to The Bachelor, shout out to K York City, and Fat Carrie Bradshaw. Theirs is really good. I listen to Mr. D times 3. His podcast, Social Studies, is really good. Him and his mom are reviewing episodes, which are amazing. And then, you know, a lot of the Bachelor people, Bachelor world will live tweet or Insta story them. So Wells is really funny, Wells Adams. So look at his. And then my favorite comedian, Jared Free, does a live scream, he calls it. And now he's doing After the Rose YouTube show, which is really cool. And he had Jordan Kimball on last night. So there's a lot of Bachelor content. So that's fine. But also I need to throw my opinion out there because I'm just so fired up about this season. So we missed the first episode. Cheers, by the way. Oh yeah, back up. So I'm in Oregon. I'm on a little adventure with the Roxy pup, and we're adventuring around. She's right over there. I wanted to take her on an adventure to show her the world and then also show myself the world. And so we're in Bend. I camped this weekend with my brother and my nephew. That was really fun. And it's cold. It's fall, y'all. Fall happens. It's real. Don't believe the naysayers. The leaves are turning. It's cold. It's supposed to snow this weekend. It's supposed to get 17 degrees. So holy shit. I'm leaving this weekend, but now I'm at an Airbnb working remotely, and it's been really fun / challenging in its own right. I've never traveled with Roxy this extensively, and so luckily there's a lot of places to eat outside, and it's not hot, so I can leave her in the truck from time to time. Now I have the hiccups. That's super cool. But yeah, only for short stints. Don't freak out. And it's cold, so it's not like she's hot in there, but they're running the grocery store or whatever, because I'm not supposed to leave her in the Airbnb. So anyways, that's my life update. But to get into the Bachelorette, okay, so I'm not going to do in chronological order because first of all, my brain doesn't think that way. And second of all, there's just too much going on in the first 2 episodes. And this would need to be 2 hours long for me to review it all. But I will not ignore the first episode because I think that's important, right? I think that first things first, good old Clare Bear is from Sacramento, which, hello, so am I, and that's amazing. And actually, I think she might be from Stockton or something, but she lives in Sacramento. And at some point, I'm gonna run into this bitch because I'm pretty sure she lives in East Sac, which is not that far from me, and she's been posting stuff going to Apple Hill and stuff. I'm I was there the day before her. I will find her. Not that I'm gonna stalk her or anything, but there's only so many places in Sacramento. We'll run into each other, and you know, maybe she's my new best friend. I don't know. But anyways, Sacramento, they started out with a couple shots of the city in the first episode, and I'm that's what you chose to show? They showed a random park, not even Land Park or McKinley Park, just a random park with kids running around that could have been anywhere. And then I don't even know if they showed the Capitol. It was very just blah. But at the same time, I'm kind of okay with that because I don't want anyone else moving to Sacramento, okay? So if you're not from Sacramento, don't even think about it. It's horrible. Okay, thanks, bye. And then they showed her house was really cute. She has peppers, blah, blah, blah. So like building up her story, like kind of giving some of the background, like she's been on like 1,000 Bachelor shows already. She's 38 or 39, I want to say. And so like going into it, I'm like really bought in, right? I'm like, she's a NorCal girl. She's older. She's not one of these like 22-year-olds that like, you know, barely know themselves, which is fine, but like I like the idea of an older Bachelorette. And she is seemingly like very clear on like what she wants and knows who she is and all this stuff. And I just was like, oh, and the fact that she's gone through the ringer on some of these shows. I actually haven't seen the season she was on, so they keep referencing the Juan Pablo season, which I didn't watch, but apparently she got really far on and ended up like getting dumped. I think the story goes that she slept with him and then he didn't choose her and she was really pissed, and has like this iconic scene where she's like, no, I deserve better. And like, sure, yes, like I'm not sure if I'm summarizing that correctly, but I think that's what it was. So that's cool. And they kind of like breezed over the rest of it. Well, what I did see was her on Bachelor Winter Games, which was this weird like spin-off that they were trying to do in tandem with the Winter Olympics. And I remember it because I had just moved into my new apartment and I was like, yes, Bachelor winter time, this never happens. And it was kind of like a weird international one where they had people from Bachelor Australia and Bachelor Canada and Bachelor France or whatever. There's a lot of them all come to this house and try to find love, but also like make them do moguls and like half pipes and like weird winter games essentially. And so that's where I met Clare, I think, because I don't think I saw her on Bachelor in Paradise. That was like before my time in terms of like when I started watching the franchise. And so anyways, she ends up in, so this, going into it, I want to give her the benefit of the doubt, but this is what I know about Clare. She got in kind of a love triangle with these two guys, and one's German and one's like French Canadian, I want to say. And I think what happened is, because, you know, I've been there, she got a little too big for her britches and thought, these two guys are into me and like I can play the field and like fuck you if you didn't do this perfectly, and like I have this other guy over here. Well, what ended up happening is the guy that she like really liked was like, okay, well fuck off then, because you're playing like games and acting like your shit don't stink. And so she, this is my opinion, I think that, and I'm not throwing shade, but I think this is what happened, was she said, all right, well, Benoit, you'll do. I also like you, and let's form a relationship. And he's like this really sweet French Canadian guy. Well, what ended up happening was they ended up getting engaged, and it ended pretty quickly. And I don't even know the story there, but if I had to guess, my guess is that, you know, she got in it for the wrong reasons. She wanted the love story. She really didn't like him that much. She liked the other guy more, but she didn't want to come out of it empty-handed. So I get it. Trust me. No judgment. I'm just like saying, if I had to extrapolate what happened, that's what happened. So going into this season, I'm kind of like knowing this about her, where she has this like, again, I have my own issues, but this underlying like insecurity that no one will like me. But then so when they do, it's like, of course you should. And then she gets a little bit like confident and also like kind of self-sabotages in the sense where it's like, crap, like, you know, now I'm gonna put you guys against each other, even though that's not necessarily necessary. She could just say, actually, you know what, I really like you more. Like, Joe Blow, Benoit, thanks for playing. I'm into Jimmy, even though Jimmy, whatever his name is, might not be as into me. Like, she was protecting her heart, right? So knowing this about Clare, going to this season, I'm a little nervous because there's been a ton of spoilers about how she, and I hate spoilers, P.S. Like, never read them, never want to hear about them. I shut my ears off. So if you're listening to this, you probably, and you live in America, you've probably heard, because these spoilers got out really, really early because of the fact that they're filming in quarantine. So you had to put everyone in a La Quinta and told them all to, like, you know, quarantine for 14 days, COVID test, all the things. So then once they pass the 14 days, they can make out freely with one woman. Okay, so where was I going with this? Oh, spoiler. So the spoiler was that she decided so early on in the season that she loved Dale and was like ready to quit the show because she's like, I found my man. What the hell am I gonna, why would I keep doing this? So part of me is kind of like, I kind of like that because her MO is to kind of get like sidetracked by other people liking her and ignoring her own like instincts and what she really wants. However, now that we're watching the show, it's a little scary because I'm thinking, okay, how is this going to play out? Is that really the case? Is she going to self-sabotage again? Is she going to really like him, but then get blinded and then like kind of fuck up everything else because he's right there and she's really into him? So I don't know. We'll have to see. But, you know, the entrances, I'm not a big one to like judge the entrances. I think the one that stood out to me the most was the station wagon guy who ended up getting eliminated immediately for being a little brat and like snitching on Yosef about something. So like I was kind of bummed because I thought that was a memorable entrance. And then there was a guy who came out as pregnant, which I kind of liked. I couldn't even tell you who that is now, but because I guess that's how she came out on her season, which is a little cuckoo, but that's fine. Own what you want. That's cool. And I'm not even sure if that's what she wanted. Anyways, so the first episode was pretty much like the guys doing their entrances. A couple key characters, obviously Dale. I think she like freaked out when she met him. He's a giant, beautiful man. And the other guy, I really, the Bennett guy with the scarf, I'm like, this is Palm Springs. It's probably 90 degrees or 100 degrees or something. And this fool came out with a full suit and a scarf. But like, also, props to you. That's what you want to wear. Great. The other thing I want to comment on, I haven't really heard anyone talking about this yet, but I feel like there's a lot more diversity than there normally is, which I am like all about, right? Because typically it's like white male or female lead and a very, very small percentage of minorities in the mix for either the guys or girls that are going after the main person. And so this one, I haven't like counted or anything because that's maybe taking it too far, but I feel like there's a good mix. And I just want to say, my personal opinion is that I think that it's because your girl Clare is from NorCal, specifically Sactown, which is very diverse, and I'm very proud of that fact. And I've talked about that on this podcast because I think that she's kind of just used to being intertwined with other people, and I think that's really cool. And it speaks, I don't know if it speaks to her character just because she lives in Sacramento, but like it speaks something about the fact that like it's not like uncomfortable for her, and it's not definitely not outside of her like comfort zone of her normal life to like have this like wide array of experiences, which I am totally for. And I just feel like Sactown pride, you know what I mean? Like, so I guess I've heard this and I've researched it, and like Sacramento is one of the most diverse cities in America, and I guess a lot of companies will send like test, like if it's a retail or some sort of business, they'll test Sacramento first because number one, it's relatively cheap. It's not so much anymore, but getting in comparison to like a Chicago or New York or San Francisco, but also because there's access to so many different types of people, which is really cool. And I'm like very proud of that. That's in my community, and that you know, we have representation. So I feel like it's like a mini win for The Bachelor because they've experienced some heat. I don't know if it's mega heat, but some heat for being really lacking in the diversity department. They've had one black female bachelorette, Rachel Lindsay, who is awesome, and I actually talk about her on one of my other episodes. And they have not had a male lead yet, male bachelor yet, until Matt James, which is the next season. And I just feel like, they have a long way to go, but I feel like this season is taking a step in the right direction. So that's good. Okay, so that's first episode. That's all I really have to say about that. I think that her saying, like, I think I met my husband with Dale is like a little bit like, okay, like, you can say that, you can feel that, but whether or not that's going to play out, I don't know. I kind of feel like they're doing the ultimate, like, making us think that's what's going to happen, because it's not. So, I don't know. Okay, but so on to episode 2. So there's a lot of stuff that happened, but what comes to mind is a couple things. There's a lot of drama around this dodgeball game, which I'm actually not sure how I feel about it. So let's talk about this. Dodgeball game, there's like 2 teams of dudes, and they introduce the idea, they make them get dressed, and they go, we're going to play dodgeball. And then Claire's like, we're going to make it strip dodgeball. And I'm like, part of me is like, oh, that's kind of fun. Like, I could see it being like playful and stuff, but at the same time, I'm like, you realize these dudes are like throwing balls at each other like really fast. They're trying to win because they want to get the time on the date at each other with like little to no protection of their junk, right? So I feel like as much as it was well intentioned, like maybe it should have been like, I don't know, like a push-up competition or something where they weren't scared for their nut sacks. You know what I mean? But hey, it was her idea, and like, I'm not necessarily like anti it, but I feel like it did get a little weird in that you got to see who was on board with being playful, who was like mad about the whole thing, who was a poor loser, and then some guys even like took it like, let me take off these jock straps that I already aren't really covering anything. And I'm like, oh man, okay, so you can kind of see, to me, I would say like, okay, if you're taking off even more than you need to, you're kind of like the partiers. And like, she was kind of incentivizing them to do it because obviously she set it up to be stripped, but like, to me, I would kind of be taking note of like, all right, so these fools are ready to like show me their junk immediately to get a laugh, right? Like, as opposed to like, if they were hooking up, that'd be one thing. This is like broing out, like, look at my dingly dangly, you know? So to me, it was just a little bit of like awkward, and probably like, I would personally, if I was the Bachelorette and they said they'd do dodgeball, I'd be like, great. I would not introduce strip. Like, that would be so uncomfortable to me. Having to say that, I would be like, no, I don't, this is awkward. I feel, if they forced me to, I would, but I'd be like, in my mind, like, this is so uncomfortable, because like, I would never want to do that either. I mean, like, girls wear skimpy clothes, but like, guys have painful things near, like, very close to situations that like could be stressful for them. Not that I care if they're stressed out, but whatever. And then the other thing, like, so she's getting a lot of heat for, at least in some of the recaps I've been listening to, for these, like, both the love languages date and the kind of like quote unquote therapy date everyone's calling it. So she basically has this date that says, all right, the guys who are here, I want to know what your love languages are, which is cool. I like love languages. I'm not opposed to them. I know my own, and I would like to know my partner's because I think that's helpful. So I didn't really think there was anything wrong with that. I think what happened was the way that it went down was like, these guys are playing along, they're doing words of affirmation, they're was it that one they had to tell her, and they had to bring her a gift, which was fun, and like, Wells was amazing. He's like, how could you rob us of knowing what Bennett brought her? Like, they didn't show, and he's the guy who's like from Harvard and looks like he owns a boat and like all this stuff where it's like he probably would have brought her something really funny, but they didn't show us, so maybe it sucked. But and then they did this physical touch one, which I mean, that could have been the whole date. Like, you're in the middle of quarantine, you haven't really been able to hug anyone, and then you get like to hug everyone blindfolded. Like, oh my god. Coming from someone who's been quarantining, I'm like, yes, like that would be amazing. But what ended up happening is like this thread that's getting kind of like pulled through the entire season, like this theme of Clare, which upsets me, is that she talks about how like, oh, it was so nice to hear this from men, and like I never hear these nice words from men, and like, oh, I know what I'm gonna say. She pretty much in every conversation I saw with any other guy, she interrupts them, and that drives me crazy. Now, obviously I interrupt people too sometimes, and like that's fine here and there. But like, she will ask them a question, like implying, yes, I would like to know the response. And as they're opening up, like they're literally, like they're trying here, right? They're like opening up, they're giving some heartfelt answer, and she will like cut them off and basically either ask them another question so as to like not hear what they were gonna say, or she'll like, oh my God, that happened to me too, and I feel like this, and then go on about her. And I'm like, how are you gonna ever know how, like, who to choose if you don't shut your mouth? And so this is part of why I feel like I support Clare and I want her to find someone, and I would just say, just be quieter, because I think she's more of the type, and I do this too, so like I'm working on it, where she's thinking of what she's gonna say next, hoping like, oh, I'll connect, and like maybe he'll like me if we're on the same page and all this stuff, but she's not really listening to what they're saying, so that the connection like gets weaker, right? Because she's not paying attention. She's focusing on what she's saying, and then they don't feel heard. So eventually it's like they're in this kind of like surface level relationship where she probably will attract people that appreciate the fact that she's not really listening, and then they realize that they don't have to share, and like, you know what I mean? So it seems like it's this like thing where like obviously I'm reflecting on my own life, like, oh, I probably do the same thing, but I would love for her to just like be a little bit quieter. So excuse me while I take a sip of wine. But something I learned in a journalism class in college was what they tell newscasters or news reporters is when you put the microphone in someone's face and you ask them a question, you know, you stick it in their face, they answer, and then they're done, they stop talking. Well, what they told them in some interview styles is to just leave the microphone after the point where they're done talking, if you're trying to get more information out of them. And like, whatever the fact is, 9 times out of 10 or something like that, the person will continue talking because the microphone is in their face. And so I would love to see her kind of like do that a little bit more, where it's like, let them finish their thought, let them be a little bit of a pause so that you can kind of process, and like maybe wait for them to ask you, or, you know, like see who actually comes to the table with questions, see who is genuinely interested in you, and see how that flow goes, as opposed to like just question, and like hoping you hear the answer you like, so you can say the answer you wanted to say because you asked the question for a purpose of being able to share what you wanted to share so the person would like you, as opposed to just getting to know the person and hearing what they actually say. Wow. That's probably a really long run-on sentence. But yeah, so I'm telling myself all this, my own advice, right? First person communication, because, you know, I think we all have room to grow, and I'm not trying to grill Claire. These are the things that came out in my brain when I'm watching, and like I cringe at the idea of, you know, asking someone to open up and then just being completely interrupted. I would be annoyed at that if someone did that to me. But I would also be annoyed if no one asked me questions. So, like, there has to be a balance. And the other thing is, like, she got, ooh, this was good. So good. She got pissed when, you guys know what I'm talking about, the scene where she's on the group date. I think it was after the dodgeball party. And she goes, all right, like, it's the cocktail party. They all sat down. She, like, does the cheers or whatever. And she's expecting someone to, like, try to steal her as soon as possible. Because that's kind of what's happened. Not kind of what's happened. That's usually what happens in all the other seasons. The people understand, okay, cocktail hour, it's my time to, like, lunge at her to get her first, to get time with her, is how they all say it. And so she says that, and it's a little bit of awkward silence. I will give her that. It was uncomfortable. But part of me is like, what? I feel like that probably happens normally, and they just edit it out because the people are realizing, okay, she's done talking. We're allowed to do this now. They edit it out so it looks like nothing happened. That was my first thought, that, like, this isn't unnatural. The people are just being polite and waiting for, like, her to be done giving her spiel because she can get snappy, right? So when nobody jumps up within, like, I'm talking seconds, like maybe 5 seconds, she's like, well, is anyone gonna ask me to, like, hang out or, like, talk to me? And so she I will say she kind of pulled it off as, like, being, like, sarcastic and playful, but it was a little harsh. And so good old Bennett, gotta love him, boatman, is like, yeah, I'd love to take you. Come on down. You're the next contestant. And so she's like, thanks. And they go start talking. Well, she's talking with him, and she's like, I want to know more about you, and boo, boo, boo. And, like, he actually kind of looks cute in this scene. Like, he's not all, like, scarfy and, like, bow tie-y. He's kind of, like, casual, which I thought maybe that's more who he is. I don't know. I hope he stays. I want to get to know him more, but I don't think she's into him. But anyways, so she's talking to him, and she's like, I'm sorry. I have to be honest. Like, I'm so distracted. I can't even focus on what you're saying. I'm so mad at the men. Nobody talked to me, and blah, blah, blah. I need to go address it, because if I don't, like, it's just going to fester, and I'm going to blow up. Which, I know that feeling where you're, like, can't even pay attention. You're like, oh, my God, I'm so pissed. I think the reason why she was so pissed is because good old Daly Bailey was in that group, and he didn't try to swoop. I don't think she gave a rat's ass if any of the other guys did. She was pissed that he didn't, because she cares about him already. It was like, how come Dale didn't do it? And she's already starting to overthink. She's already, like, frustrated at him and mad at him, and is masking it with this, I'm mad at everyone, and I'm gonna go, like, address it, because she wants to hear what he has to say, which I get. Like, you want security from the person you really like. And if you're an anxious attachment person, that's what you want, which that's who I am. So I like security. I like knowing the person I'm into is into me too. But so I think she was just completely derailed, could not even listen to him, and was like, I need to go back, waiting to hear what Dale had to say. And so he did speak up. He did say his piece and was like, I'll never do that again, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay. But I think in reality, people were just figuring out, like, is this the time I'm supposed to say something? And Dale was probably like, I'm going to give some of these other fools a chance, because, like, I got this shit on lock. You know, like, I'll give some other poor bloke a try. Give him a shot, because I already got this. Like, I'm going to, like, play it cool because she knows how I feel about her. So hopefully she doesn't, like, ruin all of this, because I do actually think Dale is genuinely into her. And I do think that, sorry, I got a Zoom chat. Wow, okay. Hello. I do actually think that he's into her, and I just hope that she can kind of just like let it develop and not freak out too much, because trust me, I've been there where you're like super into something and you overanalyze everything and like whatever. But at the same time, if you're an anxious type of personality, like, you know, your match should have the ability to calm you down, and it seems like he did that. So hoping for the best. He's beautiful. I don't know if he's my type. I think he's like too pretty boy for me, you know, like, not that I wouldn't go on a date with him, of course, but I don't know if he's my type in the sense of like, can he camp? Can he build something? Can he swing an axe? But can he clean up? Like, I know he can clean up nice and go to a nice dinner. Like, you know, I'm looking for someone who can do all the things. Kind of like, I just want someone like a little bit like well-rounded, like someone who can like be fine like building something, like figuring out how to fix something, but then is also like, you can take them to like your company's Christmas party and not be embarrassed. You know what I mean? Like, is that so hard to find? I don't know. I'm on the hunt, you know what I mean? But also, okay, to wrap this up, let's think about this. Is there anything else about this episode? Love languages, dodgeball, and yeah, I mean, they didn't do a rose ceremony. Oh, she let one of the guys go who was like, I know that you're pretty and that's all I know. So that was kind of funny. She did not give him 2 seconds, which was kind of fair. I was like, yeah, he should have been able to come up with something better than like, I know that you're from Sacramento and that you're beautiful. Like, and Jared Fried, it was so funny. He goes, in his analysis recap thing, he goes, yeah, this guy, I think his name was Brandon, was like so hot his whole life. And he's like, he didn't know how to respond to like real questions, because he usually just goes, so you're from Sacramento. And then like the girl's like, and then like later on, like they have sex because he's like so hot. And she's like, okay, but like what else? And he was like, wait, you're asking me to like say a real sentence. So I thought it was really funny. But also, I do think he was just a little nervous. Like, he seemed kind of shy and like on the spot. And so I probably wouldn't have done that. I probably wouldn't have been like, well, what else? I would have been like, oh, thanks. Like, you think I'm pretty. That's awesome. And then like got to know him, at least gave him like longer than 5 minutes. But he just got really nervous and I think like kind of shit in his pants a little bit and like went home. Because like, I don't know. I get that like you would want, he kind of said, well, as soon as I knew it was you, I came on. But then kind of admitted to not really knowing anything about her, which seemed weird. But at the same time, it's like, I don't know, people treat dating differently. Like on the apps or whatever, you don't really know the person. You know a little bit about them, you know their photos, and then it's like, but I'm willing to give it a shot. Like, he probably went a little bit more laissez-faire about it. Like, he didn't Google everything about her, and like, which maybe he should have, I don't know, but like, I probably wouldn't have given him the axe that early just for that. But, you know, to each their own. She wants someone who's like, I love everything about you and know your soul already. So, which is fine, but I just hope she listens to that, because part of me is not sure if she will actually follow through with that, like, desire of her heart, or if she just is going to follow her lady bits. You know what I'm saying? Because boy that said she was pretty could very much so end up getting to know her and liking her. He just didn't stalk her beforehand. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. That's our episode for today. Short and sweet and to the point. And I also have a couple more thoughts for new episodes, so I might be doing some more soon, because I have some fun, kind of like inspirational people that I feel like sharing, and maybe there can be some like crossover projects in the future. So, you know, let's do it. Let's hang out. Let's lounge with Leash. That's me. Thanks for listening. I'm so happy to be back. Enjoy the fall, the beginning of fall, and we'll talk soon. Alrighty.